Good morning, Esther. Professor Demito here. I just finished looking at your paper and I wanted to make a few comments so to help guide your success in the future with your paper writing. So this is your title page, and you've got some good aspects of your title page. Leadership and career paper is your title. Up here in the upper left hand area, you have your running head. Now, typically the running head is comprised of keywords from your title. So you have W2 up here. I would omit that. Also on the title page, you typically have the words running head in front of your running head. Now, when we get to the body of your paper, it begins on page 2, and you have your title here. Now, this paragraph that you have is actually your assignment criteria, so I would leave that out. Typically, the first paragraph of your paper is an introduction paragraph. You don't label it as an introduction, but it guides the reader toward what the content of your paper is going to be. So you may want to speak a little bit about leadership and then add the purpose of this paper is, and then go into a little more depth. Also, it guides the reader if you have headings listed on content. So you would have your introduction paragraph, and then you would place a centered heading, a subheading 1. A heading 1, which is centered, bold, with large words capitalized, that discusses what the content is going to be in the next series of paragraphs. This is a good way when you're writing a scholarly paper to ensure that all of the objectives listed in your rubric and in the assignment criteria are being met. Now, in reading your paper, I see something here. You have used a lot of quotes. So the assignment is to be 2 pages in length, and yours doesn't quite meet that criteria. And if I were to take out the quotations, which here's one, and then there's another one down here, there's really very little content that comes from Esther. So if you are going to utilize quotations, please use them minimally. I much prefer that you paraphrase the material. So that's taking the quote, putting it in your own words, and then citing it, because it is a different author's material, but that way I'm getting Esther, and I want to know what Esther thinks about this material, not just all quotes. In using the leadership grid, I am a team leader because I have a high concern for production as well as people. Okay, that's good. Now what you would need to do is illustrate that. So that is your aim. How is it so? Now let's see. This style works well for me in my current role as a coach. As part of the coaching session, I ask employees how they're doing and was there something going on personally that caused them to miss the mark on quality. Okay, now you need to elaborate on coach. What kind of a coach are you? What organization do you work for? What kind of quality are you looking at? So I really want a little more depth. I listen when they voice concerns and always follow through on any course of action that is required of me, such as what? Again, I need a little more detail here. My career goal after completing my degree. Now this would be another heading. So you would have a heading centered, bold, large words capitalized, and it can be something as simple as career goals. So now the reader knows that the content following that heading is going to be regarding your career goals. My career goal after completing my degree is to apply for a client service executive position within my company where I will handle multiple books of business. The reader may not know what books of business means, so you need to elaborate and lend some clarity to that. A client service executive is an individual who works as a direct contact with the client of the employee organization. Well, what organization are you working for? What is your organization? Do they have a product that they sell? Is it, you need to go into a little more depth where that is concerned. I have worked with a few managers, supervisors who didn't seem to fit the roles. In one situation, the manager had a group of 17 employees on her team. During team meetings, she would discuss personal details about happenings in her life. She wasn't fair in the distribution of work among the employees. Illustrate that. Let the reader know, envision that. I want to envision it in my mind. How was that so? Did she always give certain employees the assignments that others didn't want? And another manager was at a grocery store where I worked part-time. She was not a people person at all. She would yell at the cashiers in front of the customers and speak to them in a very demeaning manner. She was sometimes rude to the customers as well. And then your paper is ended there. There is no conclusion. All papers at this level must have a conclusion, and that paragraph just kind of leaves us hanging. Conclusions sum up the content of your paper. So you don't introduce new material into the conclusion. You sum up the 2 pages that you've written, and it doesn't need to be longer than a paragraph, but key components of your paper need to be included in that conclusion. And again, the conclusion is a heading of its own. Centered, bold, and the C is capitalized. Now let's look at your reference section here. References need to be put in APA format. And in your reference page, you have too much space between these 2 references. There isn't supposed to be this large space here. Also, when you're citing a website, job responsibilities of client service executives. Okay, now next to that, you would put the title of the web page. If there is no title to the web page, you can put website, and then you would put, and that would be in italics. Then you would put retrieved from, and then this. So this isn't appropriate to be there. Let's look at this one. Leadership, theory, application, skill development. Okay, that looks good. All right, so I'm hoping that these guidelines help assist you in future papers, and I would really like to set aside some time to work with you on a one-on-one to help clarify your next assignment. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to working with you in the future.